Guitar Collector Guy presents a Gibson SG for lava lamps and waterbeds. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Gibson Les Paul Dusk Tiger, but in 2009, it was probably one of the most advanced things that Gibson had ever released. To some people, it's also known as probably one of the more ugly things that Gibson has released, but the guitar had just amazing capabilities. It did have the robotic tuners, but it also was able to interface with your computer with software, had a piezo pickup built into it, similar to the Parker Fly line of guitars. So a few years ago, a person that I have bought a lot of guitars through on eBay had this really odd looking Gibson SG, and he basically said that he thought that it was basically a prototype from Gibson, but it didn't have a serial number, and that it possibly was one of one. I don't know why, but I watched this thing for almost a year. He lowered the price on it because it just wasn't moving, and I finally bought it. So I've had this thing for about a year, and I kind of took it on as a personal challenge that I was going to prove that it really was a Gibson prototype. And, and so I did. I took and sent off emails to Gibson. I emailed Austin at Trogley Guitars and so on. And everybody basically said it probably is what you've been told. It probably is a prototype, but without a serial number, there isn't really a way that you can, confirm it. Well, I finally took it into the garage and, basically took it apart and stuff like that. And I found some things inside of the case, and also some things when I took it apart that basically told me pretty much 100% that this is actually a Gibson product and not some sort of copy or knockoff. And as I go through this video, I'll walk you through the things that I found. So the first thing I found when I was going through the case, when I had it in the garage, was actually a TKL tag with the Gibson Dusk Panther SG case on it from, September 28th of 2009. And TKL basically makes a lot of, if not all of, the Gibson cases. Also here, I'm showing the email that I had gotten from both Gibson as well as Trogley's guitars. So it is a very odd looking guitar, but I don't know why it appealed to me. It just did. I think it was because it was just so different. And then the one difference that I really liked about this, as opposed to this is the Dusk Panther versus the Dusk Tiger, is it's symmetrical, meaning that, well, I know you know what symmetrical is, but the Les Paul model looked kind of lopsided because you only have the stainless steel on like one half of the body of the guitar, where the SG, it's kind of on the whole, front of the guitar, and just kind of makes more sense to me. What I discovered was, and after reading Trogley's email back to me, is he said that, it didn't sell well, probably, or wouldn't have sold well because people really didn't like the robotic tuner guitars. Well, it had Grover tuners on it, and I couldn't see any other holes on the back. It wasn't until I really started inspecting the bridge assemblies of the guitar, but when I realized that he was right. This actually was one of the robotic tuner guitars. The bridge assembly on this thing had the cables, the little tiny connectors that would go underneath each of the strings on the saddles, and so on. And so it had all of the earmarks of one of the robotic guitars. It was just literally pretty much the same bridge assembly and stuff that I had just experienced with a Gibson SG that I did a video on the channel with. once I opened up the back of the guitar, which the other thing too is looking at the back. First of all, the cover panel isn't positioned or the shape of any standard Gibson SG back. And when I did open it up, I realized that it was a very large cavity, which means that it probably did have all of the original robotic tuner electronics. There's like this big module block, all different types of things that you would normally find in there. But somebody had replaced it with a standard Gibson SG saddle or a wiring harness, and actually a really nice one. And you can see all of the quick connect connectors bundled up and off to the side. And, you know, somebody had done a really, really nice job with probably, I mean, close to a factory installation of the wiring harness. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and notify. It didn't have the telltale knobs. Somebody had replaced the knobs with. The next thing I wanted to inspect were the pickups. I wanted to see if I could find any like Gibson branding or model numbers or anything like that. The pickups themselves are screwed directly into the body of the guitar just by 2 screws. It's not like the normal humbucker setup, and there's nothing on them, but they're like hermetically sealed. You cannot see, and I think intentionally so. They didn't want anybody to be able to see things like the piezo pickup and all of the electronics and stuff like that they had inside of the pickups. And so they're sealed. You can't see anything at all. And it's like this silicone, but it's hard, like plastic. And so I went ahead and put it back together, but there's no branding in it at all, and so on. But they are identical to the pickups in all the pictures and everything that I've seen of the Les Paul version of this guitar. So at the end of the day, with everything that I found, that, you know, it did actually have originally the robotic technologies built into this, that nobody would have built a guitar like a Chinese version of a Gibson or something like that as a knockoff and gone to the extreme of somehow putting all of the robotic components in it. I think that this, without a doubt, is actually something that was developed and produced. Well, not produced by, because I don't think that you're going to find any of these out on the market. Austin Witrogli said that Gibson never made just one of something. So there may be, you know, 1 to 2 more of these out there somewhere. But man, I've watched the internet now for the past 2 years, and I have never seen anything or any reference to this model, you know, a Dusk Panther or anything like it. And so, so for now, it's a one of a one guitar, and, you know, I'm happy with it. And I'm going to, at the end of this, I'll play just some basic chord progressions, clean and distorted, so you can hear what it sounds like. And it does also have very unique voicing because of these pickups, not anything like what I've seen or heard with any of the SGs that I own today. And it does come with the TKL case. It does not have Gibson branding on the outside. Ironically, when you open it, though, the compartment cover has a little leather tab on it that you pull, and it has the Gibson logo on it. And so it looks like the Gibson was getting ready to go to production with these, had TKL set up to manufacture the cases, and then they stopped. You know, I think because of the poor sales of the Dusk Tiger Les Paul, and, you know, kind of people, I don't think were ready at the time for that advanced of technology in a guitar. Today, you're starting to see Seymour Duncan just came out with a 5-position switch for the Stratocaster that's Bluetooth enabled. That ironically, the same functionality, pretty much that you can do on your phone, that this guitar could do in 2009, connected to a laptop. I'm kind of sad that I won't get a chance to kind of play with it in that way. I'd really like to kind of run it through its paces to see exactly what this guitar was capable of doing. The wired video that I watched, I was like, wow, that's just amazing. And I feel as though, even though I have something that's kind of cool and unusual and unique, that I've kind of missed out on something. So, but it's a great guitar. It's kind of a little bit heavier than an SG. You don't have to worry about head drop on this thing because the body more than compensates for any of the weight. I'm not sure the wood that was used. It's probably mahogany throughout. It is, like I said, it's a little bit heavier than a normal Gibson SG. It has, I believe, a Graphtec nut. Fiber nut. They were really trying to kind of, I think, pick up where Parker Fly guitars left off, with this being a very modern permutation of an electric guitar. From what I saw in the video, you could actually do through the software coil splitting, just all different types of things through the pickup, which is ironically is exactly what just recently came out by Seymour Duncan with their new 5-way switch. So it was at the time well ahead of its time, in my opinion. Too bad it just, I don't know. It's almost like it reminds me of the 1950s cars where they were trying to make them look like spaceships, and which people liked, but it was kind of like this. They're like, we're going to put crazy advanced electronics and functionality in this guitar. Let's make it look crazy and advanced, when at the end of the day, they actually released a guitar that, in my opinion, it kind of looks like some kind of just really strange 70s disco guitar that you would expect to be sitting in a room with shag carpet, a waterbed, and a lava lamp. But the odd thing is I'm actually very drawn to it and love it. So it's a great guitar. So although the wiring harness and electronics look good, there's no middle position with this guitar. There's only the 2 separate pickups. So that's why I only did, the recordings of neck and bridge. So that being said, this is, it's a pretty neat piece of Gibson history. And I'm very happy that I have it. And I'm pretty confident now that it actually is part of Gibson history, that it came from Gibson. So thank you for following the journey with me. Thank you for watching Guitar Collector Guy. Really appreciate you being here. Hope you come back and watch more. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and notify.